Oh, the night slowly settles in, and everything becomes calm and quiet. It's the perfect moment to listen to a fairy tale. A story that has been softly told from one generation to the next, carried on the gentle whispers of the wind, much like the desert breezes that once carried the secrets of our tale's hero. Imagine the vast, shimmering sands under a canopy of countless stars where ancient cities stand guard over forgotten treasures. Tonight, we will journey together to such a place where magic and destiny intertwine in the most unexpected ways. But before the story truly begins, you should get comfortable. Take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. So, make yourself comfortable, let the outside world fade away, and let tonight's story begin. Settle in, relax, and allow the quiet magic of the tale to carry you through the night. In a small, bustling town nestled at the edge of a great golden desert lived a man named Ali Baba. His life was simple, woven from the threads of hard work and humble means. Each morning, as the first rays of dawn painted the sky in hues of soft rose and lavender, he would rise from his modest home. He owned 3 donkeys, faithful companions with long, patient ears, and together they would set off towards the dense, green forest that bordered the town. Ali Baba was a woodcutter, and his days were filled with the rhythmic sound of his axe biting into timber, the rustle of leaves underfoot, and the quiet companionship of nature. He was a good man, kind-hearted, and content with the little he had, though his existence was a daily struggle to provide for his wife and family. Contrast this quiet life with that of his elder brother Cassim. Cassim was a man of immense wealth, his hands never calloused by labor, his days spent in the comfort of luxury. He had inherited a thriving merchant business, and with each passing year, his riches grew, as did, unfortunately, his greed. His house was grand, filled with silken cushions and exotic spices, while Ali Baba's home was small, built of sun-dried bricks, its floors swept clean but bare. Though they were brothers by blood, their lives were worlds apart, separated not by distance, but by the vast chasm between contentment and insatiable desire. One particular morning, much like any other, Ali Baba embarked on his usual journey to the forest. The air was crisp, carrying the earthy scent of damp soil and ancient trees. He walked, his mind quiet, listening to the chirping of birds and the gentle thud of his donkey's hooves. He found a good spot, a clearing where dead branches lay scattered, perfect for firewood. He began his work, the steady swing of his axe, a familiar rhythm in the quiet woods. As the sun climbed higher, casting dappled light through the canopy, he paused to wipe his brow, a soft sigh escaping his lips. It was then, as he stood amidst the whispering trees, that he noticed a peculiar sight. Far in the distance, a colossal cloud of dust was rising, swirling against the horizon, like a storm approaching across the desert floor. It grew rapidly, drawing closer with an unsettling speed. Ali Baba, a man of peace, knew that such a sight often heralded trouble, perhaps bandits or raiding parties. His heart began to beat a little faster, a soft flutter against his ribs. He quickly gathered his donkeys, their eyes wide and innocent, and urged them towards a cluster of thick, ancient trees whose branches dipped low to the ground, forming a natural, leafy hiding place. He tethered his animals securely and then, with practiced stealth, climbed high into the densest part of the tallest tree, concealing himself amongst the thick foliage. From his vantage point, He could see without being seen, his breath held in a silent anticipation. Soon the dust cloud resolved itself into a formidable troop of 40 horsemen, their cloaks billowing behind them, their faces masked, and their bearing stern and imposing. They were well armed, their weapons glinting faintly in the sunlight. Ali Baba watched, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and awe, as they dismounted with practiced precision, directly in front of a sheer rock face, a seemingly impenetrable wall of stone that stood sentinel over a small, hidden meadow. Their leader, a man of imposing stature, dismounted last. He surveyed his men and the rock face with an air of authority that brooked no challenge. Then, to Ali Baba's astonishment, the leader stepped forward, his voice ringing out, clear and resonant, slicing through the stillness of the forest. He spoke 2 words, simple yet utterly magical: "Open sesame." As if by an unseen hand, a large section of the rock face, a perfectly camouflaged door, slowly began to pivot inward, revealing a dark, cavernous opening. The sound was like a deep, ancient groan, a low rumble that vibrated through the earth and up into Ali Baba's very bones. One by one, the 40 thieves laden with heavy sacks that clinked with the unmistakable sound of coins and jewels disappeared into the heart of the mountain. Ali Baba watched, his mind reeling. He couldn't believe his eyes. This was no ordinary cave. It was a vault, a secret chamber holding unimaginable riches. He waited, his muscles aching from his cramped position, for what felt like an eternity. Finally, after a considerable length of time, the thieves emerged, their sacks now noticeably lighter, their expressions satisfied. The leader stepped forward once more, and with another command, "Close sesame," the rock door swung shut, blending seamlessly back into the mountain face, leaving no trace of its existence. The thieves then remounted their horses and rode off, the dust cloud reforming behind them, until they vanished completely from sight, leaving behind only the lingering scent of adventure and a profound silence. Ali Baba remained in his tree for a long while, his heart pounding a furious rhythm against his ribs. Was it a dream? Had he imagined it all? No. The memory was too vivid, the fear too real. Slowly, cautiously, he descended from the tree, his limbs stiff. He approached the rock face, his steps tentative. He examined the stone, running his hands over its rough, cold surface, trying to find any seam or mark. But there was none. It was just a solid wall of rock. A quiet thrill, a mixture of trepidation and immense curiosity surged through him. He remembered the words perfectly, clearly. Taking a deep breath, his voice barely a whisper, he uttered, "Open sesame." And just as before, with a low, rumbling groan, the hidden door in the rock face began to pivot inward, revealing the dark maw of the cave. Ali Baba peered inside, his breath catching in his throat. What he saw defied all description. The cave was vast, its natural walls glittering with crystals. Piles upon piles of gold coins, gleaming like captured sunlight, were heaped everywhere. Silken fabrics, dyed in the richest hues of ruby and sapphire, lay in cascades. There were intricately carved wooden chests overflowing with precious jewels, emeralds, rubies, diamonds, sapphires, sparkling with an inner fire. Silver ingots, mounds of pearls, and valuable spices filled the air with their exotic fragrance. This was not merely a collection of wealth. It was a king's ransom, a treasure beyond the wildest dreams of any mortal man. Ali Baba stepped inside, his humble sandals sinking slightly into a carpet of loose coins. He didn't touch anything immediately, simply standing in awe, allowing his senses to be overwhelmed by the sheer opulence. The air was cool, dry, and surprisingly still, as if the treasure itself held its breath. His mind, usually occupied with the simple task of gathering wood, now spun with the weight of this incredible secret. He knew he could not take much, not out of fear, but out of a deep-seated honesty that was part of his nature. He thought of his hungry children, his struggling wife. He thought of the simple necessities that would make their lives a little easier. He decided to take only what his 3 donkeys could reasonably carry. He carefully filled the sacks he had brought for firewood, not with logs, but with heavy bags of gold coins. He chose only the gold, practical and easily exchangeable, leaving the dazzling jewels and silks, for he was a man of immediate needs, not extravagant desires. Once the donkeys were loaded, their burdens much heavier than any wood, he stepped back outside. With a final, hesitant glance at the glittering interior, he spoke the command, "Close, Sesame." The rock door swung shut once more, sealing away the secret as if it had never been disturbed. Ali Baba then covered the gold with a layer of firewood to make it appear as though he had simply had a productive day, his heart thrumming with a mixture of disbelief and quiet joy. He led his heavily laden donkeys homeward, the secret weighing heavily but wonderfully on his mind. Ali Baba arrived back in town, under the cloak of early evening, the air cooling and taking on the sweet scent of night-blooming jasmine. His 3 donkeys, usually trotting lightly, now plodded with deliberate heavy steps, their burdens discreetly hidden beneath layers of chopped wood. He guided them carefully towards his small, humble home, the familiar comfort of its mud-brick walls a welcoming sight. His wife, a woman of patient kindness, whose hands were perpetually busy, greeted him at the doorway, a soft smile gracing her lips. But her smile soon faded into an expression of puzzled curiosity. The sacks, though covered with mere firewood, seemed impossibly heavy, thudding rather than rustling as he unloaded them. "My dear husband," she murmured, her voice soft, "you have indeed gathered a remarkable amount of wood today. Are you quite well? You seem different." Ali Baba, his heart still thrumming with the day's astonishing secret, simply smiled, a private, knowing smile that made his eyes sparkle in the dimming light. He led her inside, his gaze sweeping over their meager dwelling, the worn carpets, the simple clay pots. He then closed the door, ensuring their privacy. With a gentle hand, he swept aside the firewood from one of the sacks, revealing not logs, but a cascade of gleaming gold coins. The sight was breathtaking. The lamplight caught the gold, making it shimmer and glow, reflecting off the wide, disbelieving eyes of his wife. She gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, her voice a whispered tremor. "Ali Baba, where, how? Is this real?" She reached out a trembling finger, touching the cool, smooth metal, confirming its reality. He recounted his incredible tale, his voice low and hushed, painting vivid pictures of the dust cloud, the hidden cave, the magic words, and the unimaginable riches within. He spoke of the 40 formidable thieves, their stern faces, and the power they wielded. His wife listened, her face a canvas of awe, fear, and then slowly a blossoming joy. This was a gift, a miracle. They would no longer suffer the pangs of poverty. But practical matters soon arose. To accurately measure their newfound wealth, his wife needed a scale. Their own small household scale was broken, a casualty of humble living. She remembered that Cassim, Ali Baba's wealthy brother, possessed a finely crafted brass scale, one he used for weighing spices and precious goods in his bustling merchant business. With a cautious heart, she decided to borrow it, reasoning that her sister-in-law, Cassim's wife, would be none the wiser. So, she went to Cassim's grand house, her heart a mix of nervousness and excitement, and politely requested to borrow the scale. Cassim's wife, a woman as curious as she was privileged, was immediately suspicious. Why would Ali Baba's humble wife, whose meals were surely modest, meet a large brass merchant's scale? Her mind, accustomed to the subtle machinations of wealth, began to churn, She agreed to lend the scale, but not before she applied a tiny, almost invisible dab of suet to the bottom of the pan. Her intention was simple. Whatever Ali Baba's wife was weighing, some minute particle of it would surely stick to the suet, revealing the truth of her unusual request. Ali Baba's wife returned home, unaware of the clever trick. She and Ali Baba then began the delightful task of weighing their gold. The coins clinked and gleamed, filling their small home with the music of prosperity. They worked through the night, their hearts full, their faces illuminated by the golden glow. When they had finished, the scale was returned. Cassim's wife retrieved it, her eyes glinting with expectation. She turned the scale over, and there, stuck to the suet, was a single, gleaming gold coin. Her gasp of shock and revelation echoed silently in the opulence of her home. A single gold coin! Her mind raced. Ali Baba, the poor woodcutter, had gold. Not just a few coins, but enough to require a merchant's scale. The implications were immense. She rushed to her husband Cassim, her voice trembling with a mixture of disbelief and barely contained excitement. "Cassim, you will not believe what Ali Baba's wife has just borrowed. A scale, to weigh gold. Our scale. Look." She showed him the solitary coin, a beacon of impossible wealth. Cassim, upon seeing the gold coin, felt a sudden, sharp pang of envy pierce his heart. His greed, already a vast canyon, deepened instantly. He knew his brother was poor. He knew his brother struggled. Where could Ali Baba have acquired such wealth? He immediately confronted Ali Baba, his voice a harsh, accusatory whisper, demanding to know the source of his riches. Ali Baba, after much persuasion, and seeing the intense hunger in his brother's eyes, reluctantly revealed his secret. He described the location of the cave, the magic words, "Open Sesame" and "Close Sesame," and the boundless treasures within. He warned Cassim of the dangers, of the formidable thieves, urging caution and restraint. But Cassim, blinded by his voracious greed, heard only treasure and limitless wealth. The warnings of danger faded into the background, insignificant whispers against the clamor of avarice in his mind. He envisioned himself wealthier than any king, his coffers overflowing, his power absolute. The very next morning, before the sun had fully kissed the horizon, Cassim set out, not with 3 donkeys, but with 10 stout mules, their backs laden with immense baskets, ready to be filled to bursting. He rode directly to the forest, his heart pounding with an almost feverish anticipation. He found the rock face easily, guided by Ali Baba's precise directions. His eyes gleamed as he stood before the immense stone, his hands trembling slightly with excitement. Taking a deep breath, his voice loud and clear, echoing with an almost triumphant glee, he cried, "Open Sesame!" The rock face groaned, as it had for Ali Baba, and slowly, majestically, the secret entrance swung open, revealing the dazzling interior. Cassim stepped inside, and his breath hitched. The sight was even more magnificent than Ali Baba had described. Mountains of gold, rivers of silver, cascades of shimmering silks, and chests overflowing with sparkling jewels greeted his eyes. He laughed, a wild, joyous sound that echoed through the cavern. This was his, all of it. He began to rush around, frantically filling his baskets, his hands grabbing at handfuls of coins, armfuls of silk, handfuls of glistening gems. He moved with a frenzied energy, tossing coins into the baskets, his mind racing with visions of his future wealth. He was so overwhelmed by the sheer volume of treasure, so consumed by the ecstasy of possession, that his mind became a whirl of glittering gold and precious stones. He completely forgot the magic words that would seal the cave shut and, more importantly, open it again. He filled all 10 of his mule's baskets, and still, he wanted more. He couldn't bear to leave a single coin behind. But eventually, the baskets were overflowing, the mules outside surely groaning under the weight. It was time to leave. He approached the entrance, his arms laden with yet more gold, and tried to remember the words. "Open barley," he shouted. Then, "Open wheat." He tried every grain, every seed he could think of, his voice growing increasingly desperate, a rising panic beginning to grip his throat. But the door remained stubbornly, terrifyingly shut. His laughter turned to frantic yells, his joy to cold, paralyzing fear. He was trapped. Hours passed, marked only by the growing darkness within the cave and the deepening terror in Cassim's heart. He huddled amongst the treasures that now seemed like mocking reminders of his folly, listening to the silence outside, a silence that was far more menacing than any sound. And then he heard it, the distant rumble of horses' hooves, growing steadily louder. The familiar sound, so welcome when he'd first heard it from Ali Baba's description, now struck terror into his very soul. The 40 thieves were returning. He pressed himself against a wall, hoping to become invisible, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs. The great door rumbled open, revealing the formidable figures of the 40 thieves, led by their stern captain. They entered the cave, their eyes immediately scanning their domain. And then they saw him, Cassim, cowering amongst the piles of gold, his 10 mules patiently waiting outside. The thieves, experts in their craft, instantly knew what had happened. This man was an intruder, a trespasser, who had discovered their secret. There was no negotiation, no questioning. Their faces, already hardened by their trade, became masks of grim resolve. The captain gave a silent nod. The thieves, without a word, fell upon Cassim. His frantic pleas, his desperate cries for mercy, were cut short. The air filled with the sharp, brutal sounds of steel. His greed, which had led him to such boundless riches, now led him to a most gruesome and tragic end. When the thieves were done, they left his body quartered and displayed just inside the cave's entrance, a chilling warning to any who might dare to trespass again. Then they remounted their horses and rode off, leaving the cave door open, confident that the horrific sight within would deter any further intrusion. Days turned into a week, and Cassim did not return. His absence began to cast a long, unsettling shadow over the town, particularly over Ali Baba and his wife. Ali Baba, though saddened by his brother's fate, was also filled with a gnawing anxiety. He had warned Cassim, pleaded with him for caution, but his brother's greed had proved too powerful. Now, the weight of his brother's disappearance and the grim possibilities it suggested pressed heavily upon him. Cassim's wife, a woman of sharp wit and even sharper tongue, grew increasingly agitated. She went to Ali Baba, her voice edged with worry and accusation, demanding to know where her husband was. Ali Baba, caught between the truth and the need to protect his family from the wrath of the thieves, could only offer vague reassurances, but his evasiveness only fueled her suspicions. He knew, deep in his heart, that Cassim must have met a terrible end at the hands of the thieves. The image of his brother, trapped and desperate in the glittering cave, haunted his waking thoughts. He worried not only for Cassim, but for himself and his family. If the thieves discovered Cassim's connection to Ali Baba, their secret and their very lives would be in grave danger. He knew he had to retrieve Cassim's body, not only for the sake of his distraught sister-in-law, but also to prevent any suspicion from falling upon him and his family. The thought of his brother's body, left exposed and desecrated, stirred a deep sense of sorrow and duty within him. Summoning all his courage, Ali Baba prepared to return to the cave. This time, he went with a specific, somber purpose. He took his 3 donkeys, their faces impassive as always, and again covered their baskets with layers of firewood. He rode quickly, his mind focused, his heart heavy. As he approached the hidden entrance, he called out the magic words, "Open Sesame!" The rock door groaned open, revealing the familiar, dazzling interior. But this time, the beauty was overshadowed by a horrifying sight. There, just inside the entrance, was Cassim's quartered body, a brutal testament to the thieves' merciless nature. A wave of grief and sickness washed over Ali Baba. He fought down the urge to vomit, tears blurring his vision. This was his brother, mangled and disfigured, a tragic monument to avarice. With immense sorrow and great care, Ali Baba gathered his brother's remains and placed them gently into one of the empty baskets. He then covered the gruesome contents with a thick layer of fine textiles he found within the cave. Soft, richly dyed fabrics that would both conceal and lend dignity to the tragic cargo. He left the cave, ensuring the door closed behind him, his heart heavy with grief and fear. He hurried back to town, avoiding all eyes, his face a mask of sorrow and grim determination. He knew he couldn't simply bring his brother's body home in such a state. It would raise too many questions, spark too much fear, and ultimately expose his dangerous secret. Upon reaching his home, he immediately sought out Morgiana, his household slave. Morgiana was not merely a servant. She was a woman of extraordinary intelligence, unwavering loyalty, and remarkable resourcefulness. Her eyes were sharp, missing nothing, and her mind was quicker than any. Ali Baba trusted her implicitly, knowing her wisdom far surpassed her station. He led her to the baskets, and with a heavy sigh revealed their grim contents. Morgiana's face, usually calm and composed, showed a flicker of shock, but she quickly regained her composure. Ali Baba, his voice barely a whisper, explained the full, terrible story. The cave, the gold, Cassim's greed, and his horrific end. He emphasized the paramount need for secrecy, for if anyone discovered the truth, their lives would be forfeit. Morgiana listened intently, her brow furrowed in thought. Her mind, ever practical, immediately grasped the gravity of the situation. Their goal was to make it appear as if Cassim had died a natural death, or at least a death that was not at the hands of 40 murderous thieves. This would not only protect Ali Baba, but also ensure that Cassim received a proper burial, preserving their family's honor. She knew this required cunning and absolute discretion. Her first act was to find a skilled tailor, a man known for his discretion and his ability to work quickly. She went to a distant part of the town, far from their neighborhood, and sought out an old tailor named Baba Mustafa. Approaching him with a veil drawn low over her face, she offered him a handsome sum of gold, much more than he usually earned. Her voice was steady, calm, as she instructed him to come to Ali Baba's house, blindfolded, and perform a particular task, to sew together the dismembered parts of a body. She emphasized the urgency, the need for absolute secrecy, and the generous reward. Baba Mustafa, his eyes widening at the sight of the gold and the unusual request, was a man of the world, accustomed to strange requests from the wealthy. The promise of gold and Morgiana's serious demeanor convinced him. He agreed to her terms, his curiosity piqued, but his discretion assured by the weighty purse in his hand. Morgiana then led the tailor, blindfolded, through the winding streets, taking several detours and turns to disorient him completely. She brought him into Ali Baba's house, where Ali Baba himself waited, his face etched with anxiety. The tailor was led to the room where Cassim's remains lay, still covered. Morgiana removed the veil from his eyes, and the old man gasped softly at the sight. But before he could utter a word, Morgiana placed another small bag of gold in his hand and reiterated her demand for silence. Baba Mustafa, hardened by years of life, understood. He worked swiftly and skillfully, his needle flying, reassembling Cassim's body with the precision of a master craftsman, his movements quiet, efficient, and grim. When he was finished, Morgiana once again blindfolded him, led him back through the convoluted streets, and released him, ensuring he was thoroughly disoriented and bound by his oath and the glittering lure of gold. With Cassim's body now whole again, Morgiana's ingenious plan continued to unfold. She needed to simulate a natural, if sudden. She went to an apothecary, again in a different part of town, and purchased a strong, potent medicine, a remedy known for its efficacy against severe illness. Her manner was one of deep distress, her voice filled with a convincing sorrow as she spoke of her master, Cassim, being gravely ill, rapidly declining. The apothecary, seeing her genuine-seeming grief, offered his condolences and the strongest remedies he possessed. She then returned to Ali Baba's house and, with the help of a trusted male servant, began the next phase. She discreetly informed Cassim's wife that Cassim had suddenly fallen ill. The shock, the rapid decline, the inability to call for a physician, it was all part of the carefully constructed narrative. The wife, already distraught by Cassim's prolonged absence, believed the story, her grief now taking on a new, sudden urgency. News quickly spread through the neighborhood that the wealthy merchant Cassim had been taken by a sudden, virulent illness. Neighbors murmured their condolences, surprised by the swiftness of the sickness. Finally, Morgiana's masterpiece of deception reached its conclusion. She sent for the local undertaker, again acting with perfect composure, her face reflecting appropriate sorrow. She explained that Cassim had passed away during the night despite all their efforts. The undertaker, accustomed to such sudden demises in a world without modern medicine, took the news in stride. He prepared Cassim's body for burial, wrapping it in a shroud and performing all the traditional rites. The funeral was held with due solemnity, attended by Cassim's distraught wife, Ali Baba, and his family, and a host of townspeople who offered their condolences. No one suspected the truth. No one questioned the suddenness of his death. Morgiana's loyalty, intelligence, and meticulous planning had not only protected Ali Baba, but had also given Cassim a burial that preserved his family's honor, masking the gruesome reality of his fate from the inquisitive eyes of the world. The secret of the cave and the terrifying actions of the 40 Thieves remained safe for now. While Ali Baba and Morgiana were orchestrating their elaborate deception in town, the 40 Thieves, oblivious to the meticulous cover-up, returned to their secret cave. They rode with the easy confidence of men who believed they had successfully eliminated a threat and left a chilling warning for any who might follow. The captain, a man of sharp intellect and ruthless efficiency, expected to find Cassim's body still exactly where they had left it, a quartered message etched in blood and flesh against the glittering backdrop of their stolen wealth. But as the rock door groaned open, revealing the familiar interior, a ripple of unease spread through the ranks of the thieves. The captain, his eyes narrowed, immediately sensed something was amiss. The treasure was untouched, yes, but where was the body? The space where they had left Cassim's remains was empty, a faint dark stain on the cavern floor, the only testament to the violence that had transpired. The chilling warning they had so carefully constructed had vanished. A heavy silence descended upon the cave, broken only by the uneasy shuffling of feet. The captain's face darkened, a muscle twitching in his jaw. This was an unforeseen complication, a disturbing turn of events. Someone else knew their secret. Someone had dared to enter their sanctuary, not to steal, but to remove the grim evidence of their trespasser. This meant one thing. The first intruder had an accomplice, or perhaps was not the only one to discover their secret. Their lair, their impenetrable fortress, was compromised. "This is not good," the captain's voice rumbled. "Low and dangerous. We leave a clear warning, and it vanishes. Someone has removed the body. This is no accident. This means another knows of our cave and perhaps even of our presence. We must find this person. We must eliminate them before our entire operation is jeopardized. His gaze swept over his men, conveying the gravity of their situation. The thieves murmured amongst themselves, their faces grim. The thought of their sanctuary being known to outsiders, even to one person, filled them with a cold dread. Their wealth, their very lives depended on absolute secrecy. The captain quickly deduced the most logical explanation. The first intruder, Cassim, must have had an associate, someone who knew of his movements and, by extension, knew of the cave's existence and the powerful magic words. He reasoned that this second person would naturally be looking for their missing comrade, and upon discovering his grim fate, would have courageously or cunningly retrieved the body. This person, then, must be a relative, or at least a close associate, of the deceased, and if they could find this person, they could find the source of the leak and prevent any further dissemination of their secret. Their first priority, the captain declared, was to identify the person who had removed the body. He instructed one of his most cunning and observant thieves, a man named Hussein, to undertake this crucial task. Hussein was known for his sharp eyes and keen sense of deduction, a master of disguise and infiltration. "Go," the captain commanded. "Go to the town nearest to this forest. Inquire about any recent sudden deaths. Pay close attention to any strange circumstances, any unusual behavior. Find out who has died and who is grieving. This will lead us to the one who knows too much." Hussein, disguising himself as a wandering merchant, left the cave and journeyed towards the town. He arrived a day or two later, blending seamlessly into the bustling marketplace. His ears were open, listening to the gossip, the murmurs of the townsfolk. It didn't take long for him to pick up on the recent, albeit sudden, death of the wealthy merchant, Cassim. The news was still fresh, the whispers of his illness and quick demise still circulating. Hussein, with his acute observation skills, noticed something subtly amiss about the story. A merchant of Cassim's standing would typically have had a physician attend him, a drawn-out period of illness, a more public and less rushed burial. The swiftness of it all, the vague details, sparked his suspicion. He also paid close attention to the details of the funeral, learning where Cassim's home was located. He discreetly observed the family, trying to gauge their reactions, looking for any sign of extraordinary grief or secrecy. He noted the presence of Ali Baba, looking appropriately somber, and also the remarkable poise of Ali Baba's slave Morgiana, who seemed to handle all the funeral arrangements with an almost unsettling efficiency. He learned that Ali Baba was Cassim's brother, the connection immediately raising a red flag. After gathering enough information to confirm that Cassim's sudden death was indeed the most unusual event in recent days, Hussein became convinced that this was their man. He was certain that Ali Baba, the deceased's brother, was the one who had entered the cave and removed the body. But he needed proof, a way to mark Ali Baba's specific house among the many similar dwellings in the town. He followed Ali Baba home, observing his movements from a distance, careful not to be seen. He watched as Ali Baba entered his modest house, blending in with the other residences on the street. Hussein realized that all the houses in the neighborhood looked remarkably similar. Mud brick walls, flat roofs, narrow doorways. To simply remember the house would be too risky, especially if he had to return with his companions at night. He needed an unmistakable marker. As Ali Baba settled back into his daily routine, Hussein discreetly approached the house. With a small piece of chalk, he made a clear, visible mark on the doorpost, a distinctive white cross that would easily stand out. He then returned to the cave, his mission accomplished, brimming with confidence that he had successfully identified the target. He reported his findings to the captain, describing the town, the unusual death, and the marked house. The captain, pleased with Hussein's diligence, gathered his thieves. "We go tonight," he declared, his voice cold and resolute. "We will eliminate this new threat, and anyone else who might have discovered our secret." The thieves, eager to restore the sanctity of their lair and exact revenge for the intrusion, armed themselves and prepared for their nocturnal raid. Meanwhile, back in Ali Baba's home, the day had wound down. As dusk settled, Morgiana, ever vigilant, stepped outside to take a breath of fresh air after the stressful events of the past days. Her sharp eyes immediately fell upon the peculiar chalk mark on Ali Baba's doorpost. A tiny, almost imperceptible flicker of concern crossed her face. This was not a random mark. It was too deliberate, too distinct. Her intuition, honed by years of keen observation, immediately told her that this was a sign of danger. Someone had marked their house. Her mind raced, connecting the dots. Cassim's sudden death, the secrecy surrounding it, the immense treasure Ali Baba had spoken of, and now this mark. She knew with chilling certainty that this mark was the work of the thieves. They had discovered Cassim's disappearance, and they were looking for the one who had removed his body. And now they had found Ali Baba's house. Morgiana did not panic. Instead, her resourceful mind, ever quick and cunning, began to formulate a plan. She understood the critical importance of neutralizing this threat without alarming Ali Baba, whose anxieties were already stretched thin. She knew that simply removing the mark would not be enough. The thieves would realize their mark was gone and would either remark it or become even more suspicious. She needed a more comprehensive solution, one that would completely throw them off the scent. Without a moment's hesitation, and with a brilliant flash of insight, Morgiana walked to her own door. Then, using a piece of chalk that she kept in the house for various chores, she proceeded to make an identical mark on her neighbor's door. And then the next, and the next, until she had marked every single door on the street with the exact same white cross. Her movements were swift and precise, her face calm and determined in the fading light. She worked quickly, her heart beating a steady rhythm of resolve, ensuring that by the time the night fully descended, the entire street bore the same misleading sign. When she was done, she returned to Ali Baba's house, her secret safely guarded, a silent sentinel against the impending danger. As the stars began to twinkle in the vast, inky canvas of the desert night, the captain of the 40 Thieves led his men stealthily into the town. Their horses moved with hushed steps, their shadows long and sinuous against the dim moonlight. Their faces were grim, hardened by years of illicit trade and ruthless action. Revenge for the intrusion into their sacred vault burned in their eyes, mingled with the chilling necessity of safeguarding their immense fortune. Hussein, the thief who had scouted the town and marked Ali Baba's door, rode confidently at the front, guiding them through the labyrinthine alleys and winding streets. "This is the street," Hussein whispered to the captain, his voice a low rustle in the quiet night, his arm gesturing towards the row of houses. "His house is here." I marked the door with a chalk cross. The captain nodded, his hand resting on the hilt of his curved dagger, his senses alert. He expected to find a single solitary mark, a beacon in the darkness, leading them directly to their prey. But as they drew closer, a collective gasp rippled through the ranks of the thieves. Hussein, who had been so certain of his infallible marking, reined in his horse abruptly, his eyes widening in disbelief and confusion. Every single door on the street bore an identical white chalk cross. House after house, door after door, all marked with the exact same symbol. The street, which Hussein had intended to make a clear path, now presented an impenetrable wall of identical, misleading signs. The captain's face, usually a mask of control, contorted into a furious scowl. "What is this, Hussein?" he hissed, his voice laced with venom. "Are you blind? Or have you been made a fool?" Hussein stammered, his confidence evaporating like mist in the desert sun. "Captain, I swear, I marked only one. This is impossible." He walked along the street, his torch held high, checking each door, each mark. They were all identical, all indistinguishable. There was no way to tell which house was Ali Baba's. The brilliant plan to pinpoint their target had been utterly, devastatingly foiled. The thieves grew restless, their frustration a palpable current in the night air. Their leader, seething with anger at this unexpected turn of events, knew they could not risk a haphazard attack. To assault every house on the street would draw unwanted attention, alert the town, and likely lead to their exposure. Their primary goal was discretion, to eliminate the threat silently and completely. This cunning countermove, so simple yet so effective, had thrown their entire plan into disarray. "We retreat," the captain commanded, his voice tight with barely suppressed rage. "We cannot act blindly." This was a clever trick, one we did not foresee. Someone is protecting him, someone with a sharp mind. "We will return to the cave. Hussein, your failure has put us all at risk. You will pay for this." Hussein, trembling with fear, knew his days were numbered. The captain's fury was a dangerous force, and failure was never tolerated. Back at the secret cave, the captain did not waste time with grand speeches. His punishment for Hussein's failure was swift and brutal. The unfortunate thief, who had boasted of his discernment, paid the ultimate price for being outsmarted. His demise served as a chilling reminder to the other thieves of the grave consequences of incompetence and the ruthlessness of their leader. The captain then called for a new volunteer, another thief, even more cunning and observant than Hussein. This man was named Al-Sayyid, a thief renowned for his meticulous attention to detail and his ability to see what others missed. "Al-Sayyid," the captain began, his voice cold and unwavering, "you will go to the town. You will identify the house of the man who removed the body. This time, there must be no mistake. You will find a more subtle, more permanent way to mark the house. Your life depends on it." Al-Sayyid, learning from Hussein's fatal mistake, understood the challenge. He disguised himself as a traveling spice merchant. His baskets filled with aromatic cinnamon, cloves, and saffron, and set off for the town. He approached his task with extreme caution, spending an entire day observing Ali Baba's neighborhood, mingling with the townsfolk, and listening intently to their conversations. He quickly identified Ali Baba's house, noting its position in relation to a distinctive feature, such as a large fig tree or a particular cornerstone. He confirmed Ali Baba's identity through discreet inquiries, linking him once more to the recently deceased Cassim. This time, Al-Sayyid decided on a more inconspicuous, yet permanent, mark. Instead of chalk, which could be easily duplicated or wiped away, he chose to chip a small, almost imperceptible piece of stone from the edge of the doorpost of Ali Baba's house. He also noted the exact door Ali Baba used and made a tiny scratch on its frame, barely visible to the casual eye. He satisfied himself that this mark, combined with his detailed memory of the house's surroundings, would be unmistakable, even in the darkest night. Confident in his success, he returned to the cave, proud of his subtle cunning. Meanwhile, Morgiana, ever watchful, stepped out of Ali Baba's house again in the late afternoon. Her gaze, sharp and observant, immediately scanned the doorpost. Her eyes, accustomed to noticing the smallest details, detected the fresh chip in the stone, almost invisible to others. Her heart gave a sudden lurch. She understood instantly. The thieves were not deterred. They were back, and this time, their mark was far more insidious. Her mind raced again, recognizing the increased danger. A chalk mark could be replicated, confusing the enemy. But a physical alteration to the house itself was a far more precise, and deadly threat. The implications were chilling. The thieves would not be fooled by a mass marking this time. They would go straight for the chipped doorpost, confirming Ali Baba's house with absolute certainty. Once again, Morgiana did not waste a moment. Her plan was swift and decisive. She hurried to a nearby quarry, a place where masons often left discarded pieces of stone and mortar. She gathered several bags of stone dust and some rough, quick-drying plaster. Returning to the street, she approached the house to the left of Ali Baba's. With deft hands, she applied a patch of plaster to its doorpost, shaping it carefully to mimic a chipped stone, then dusted it with the stone dust to make it appear weathered and old. She moved on to the house on the right, repeating the process. She continued down the street, working quickly and silently, applying similar false chips and marks to the doorposts of every house on the street, using different shades of stone dust to create the illusion of various ages and types of damage. She even created a tiny, almost invisible scratch on the door frames of some of the houses, just as Al-Said had done. By the time she finished, the entire street was a confusing tapestry of seemingly damaged doorposts and scratched doorframes. To the casual observer, it would look like nothing more than the natural wear and tear of time on old houses. But to the discerning eye of a thief looking for a specific, subtle mark, it would be an utter nightmare of indistinguishable signs. She stood back, a faint, determined smile touching her lips, satisfied that she had once again rendered the thieves' meticulous efforts useless. She had not only removed their advantage, but had turned their own cunning against them. That night, the captain, his eyes burning with renewed determination, led his men back to the town, Al-Said confidently riding beside him. "There can be no mistake this time," the captain growled. "Al-Said has assured me his mark is foolproof." They approached the street with caution, their torches cast in flickering light on the houses. Al-Said, eager to redeem himself and secure his life, led the way to what he believed was Ali Baba's house, pointing to the chipped doorpost and the tiny scratch. But as the other thieves fanned out, their torches illuminated a scene of bewildering confusion. Every single house on the street, or so it seemed, had a chipped doorpost. Some had one, some had two, some even had three. There were tiny scratches on door frames everywhere. The entire street looked like it had been ravaged by 1,000 small accidents. The distinctive mark Al-Said had so carefully crafted was now lost amidst a sea of similar, manufactured imperfections. The captain stared in disbelief. Then his face contorted into a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. "Al-Said!" he bellowed, his voice echoing in the silent street. "You fool! You have failed just as the other did." Al-Said stammered, his face pale with terror, unable to explain the impossible proliferation of his unique mark. The thieves stood in stunned silence, their frustration boiling. This was not chance. This was deliberate. Someone was actively thwarting them. Someone incredibly clever. Someone who knew their methods. The captain knew they had been outsmarted once again. He understood now that he was up against a formidable opponent, a mind as sharp, if not sharper, than his own. He ordered his men to retreat, their mission once again a spectacular failure. Back at the cave, Al-Said met the same brutal end as Hussein. The captain, however, was not simply angry, he was deeply unsettled. This adversary was proving far more challenging than any he had ever encountered. He realized that this was no ordinary man they were hunting. This was a master of deception, a ghost that moved in the shadows, anticipating their every move. He knew now that if he wanted to succeed, he would have to take matters into his own hands. The next move would be his alone, a dangerous, cunning game of cat and mouse, where the stakes were life and death, and the fate of their treasure hung in the balance. The repeated failures had left the captain of the 40 Thieves consumed by a simmering rage, but also by a chilling realization. this was no ordinary target. This was an adversary of immense cunning, someone who anticipated their every move, turning their own methods against them. 2 of his best men had perished, not in battle, but by being outsmarted. This was a direct challenge to his authority, his intellect, and the very foundation of his gang's secrecy. He knew he could no longer entrust this vital mission to anyone else. If Ali Baba was to be found and eliminated, the captain himself would have to orchestrate the next more intricate and far more dangerous plan. He spent several days in the cave, brooding, meticulously crafting a scheme that would be beyond the reach of any subtle countermove. He needed a way to infiltrate Ali Baba's home, to be inside, to see him, to hear him, and to strike when the moment was right. He needed a disguise, not just for himself, but for his entire remaining band of 37 thieves. The plan that coalesced in his mind was audacious, risky, and brilliant in its malevolence. He ordered his men to procure 37 large earthen jars, the kind used by merchants to transport olive oil. Each jar was wide-mouthed, capable of concealing a grown man, and robust enough to withstand travel. He then acquired 1 additional, slightly smaller jar, which he filled with genuine olive oil. This single, legitimate jar would serve as his cover, lending credibility to his disguise. Once the jars were obtained, the captain oversaw a gruesome but efficient process. He took the 37 remaining thieves and carefully concealed each one inside a separate jar. Before sealing them, he provided each man with a small, sharpened dagger and explicit instructions. Remain absolutely silent, feign sleep if necessary, and await his signal. The signal would be a few drops of oil from the genuine jar poured onto their jar lids, indicating it was time to emerge and act. He also made sure they had enough air holes for breathing, cleverly disguised so as not to draw suspicion. The thieves, hardened and disciplined, followed his orders without question, understanding the absolute necessity of their covert mission. With his men thus concealed, the captain, dressed in the humble garb of a traveling oil merchant, loaded the 38 jars onto the backs of a string of sturdy mules. The weight was considerable, and the mules moved slowly, their hooves plodding softly on the dusty roads. He made his way towards the town, his face a picture of weary travel, a convincing performance of a merchant arriving late in the day. As dusk began to settle, casting long purple shadows across the landscape, the captain, in his guise as an oil merchant, reached the gates of the town. He purposefully arrived at an hour when the gates would be preparing to close, and when it would be difficult to find lodging for such a large quantity of goods. He approached Ali Baba's house, knowing it was still the general vicinity of his target, and knocked on the door. Ali Baba, a kind and hospitable man, despite his newfound wealth and his recent anxieties, answered the knock. He saw a weary merchant, surrounded by mules laden with olive oil jars, seemingly in need of a place to rest for the night. The captain, his voice a convincing blend of fatigue and politeness, explained his predicament. He was a traveling oil merchant, caught by nightfall with no suitable place to store his valuable cargo. He humbly requested a corner of Ali Baba's courtyard to stable his mules and store his jars until morning, offering a small payment for the inconvenience. Ali Baba, unaware of the deadly deception, felt a surge of empathy for the seemingly distressed merchant. His nature was generous, and he remembered the kindness he himself had received from fate. "My good man," Ali Baba replied, his voice warm and welcoming. "There is no need for payment. You are welcome to stay here for the night. My courtyard is at your disposal, and you and your mules will be safe. We will even offer you food and drink." The captain, suppressing a triumphant smirk, expressed his profuse gratitude. He led his mules into Ali Baba's spacious courtyard, carefully arranging the 38 jars against the wall. He ensured the genuine oil jar was placed prominently, while the jars containing his men were strategically positioned to allow for their swift egress when the time came. After securing his goods, he shared a meal with Ali Baba, engaging in polite conversation, all the while subtly observing his host and familiarizing himself with the layout of the house. He learned, through casual questioning, the routine of the household, the number of occupants, and the time they usually retired for the night. He was careful to avoid any topic that might arouse suspicion, maintaining his persona as a simple, tired merchant. As the night deepened, Ali Baba and his family retreated to their sleeping quarters, bidding the merchant good night. The captain settled down in the courtyard, feigning sleep, but his mind was alight with anticipation. He waited for the house to fall completely silent, for the sounds of the town to fade into a gentle hum, for the moon to climb high in the sky. He planned to wait until the deepest part of the night, when all were in their most profound sleep, before giving the signal. Meanwhile, Morgiana, ever diligent, was still awake, bustling about her duties. She was preparing for the morning, perhaps sweeping the kitchen or polishing some brass pots. As she moved through the house, she noticed that the oil lamp in the kitchen, which usually held a good supply of oil, was flickering precariously low. She needed oil for the lamp to last the rest of the night and to prepare breakfast in the morning. Remembering the large number of oil jars in the courtyard, a thought sparked in her clever mind. Why go out to buy oil when there was a merchant's supply right there? She decided to borrow a small amount from the traveling merchant's stock. Taking a small pitcher, she quietly made her way into the courtyard, moving with the soft steps that were characteristic of her. The moon cast a silvery glow on the jars, making them appear like silent sentinels. She approached the first jar, a large earthenware vessel. As she reached out to tip it, she heard a faint rustling sound from within. Her hand froze, her senses, always alert, immediately sharpened. She listened more intently. From the next jar, she heard a soft cough, barely audible. From another, a quiet shift, a muffled breath. Her blood ran cold. This was not oil. This was something far more sinister. Her mind, quick and analytical, instantly grasped the terrifying truth. These were not oil jars. They were containers. For men, for killers. The oil merchant was clearly the captain of the thieves, and this elaborate ruse was a direct, deadly attack on Ali Baba. All the pieces of the puzzle clicked into place. The chalk marks, the chipped stones, the relentless pursuit. This was the final, most dangerous assault. Morgiana did not scream. She did not panic. Her heart pounded, but her resolve was absolute. She knew that any sudden move, any sign of discovery, would be her and Ali Baba's undoing. Her first task was to ensure the captain remained convinced of his deception. She walked around the courtyard, feigning the movements of a servant, moving slowly towards the one jar that contained genuine oil. She found it, distinguishing it from the others by the faint aroma of olive oil emanating from its slightly looser lid. Quietly, calmly, she filled her pitcher. But as she returned to the kitchen, her mind was racing frantically, searching for a solution, a way to turn this deadly trap back upon its creators. She had to act, and she had to act decisively before the captain gave his signal. The lives of Ali Baba and his entire household rested solely on her shoulders. Morgiana returned to the kitchen, her small pitcher now filled with genuine olive oil, her heart thrumming like a wild drum in her chest. The air suddenly felt thick with the weight of the secret she had stumbled upon, the silence of the night now pregnant with a sinister anticipation. She knew the captain, feigning sleep in the courtyard, was merely waiting for the opportune moment, for the deepest hour of the night, to unleash his hidden assassins. There was no time to wake Ali Baba, no time to explain, for any sudden movement or outcry would surely alert the cunning captain and lead to immediate devastating consequences. She had to act alone, and she had to act with absolute swiftness and ruthlessness. Her mind, usually so precise and ordered, now worked with a feverish intensity, conjuring a plan as bold as it was terrifying. She had to eliminate the threat before it could materialize. Her eyes scanned the kitchen, assessing the tools at hand. A large cauldron, usually used for cooking stews or heating water for bathing, stood ready. Nearby, a roaring fire still glowed in the hearth, kept alive for the morning's bread. Without a moment's hesitation, Morgiana pushed the heavy cauldron onto the glowing embers, stirring the fire to life with a fierce determination. She then began to fill the cauldron with the very oil she had just drawn from the legitimate jar, adding more and more from the large earthenware vessel until it was nearly full. The heavy, viscous oil slowly began to heat, its surface shimmering as the temperature rose. The smell of hot oil, usually a comforting scent in the kitchen, now took on a menacing quality, a prelude to the grim task ahead. She waited, her gaze fixed on the cauldron, her ears straining for any sound from the courtyard. The oil began to bubble and hiss, a thick, greasy steam rising from its surface. It grew hotter and hotter, reaching a furious, rolling boil. Morgiana knew that at this temperature, a few drops of this scalding liquid would inflict unimaginable pain, but an entire deluge would be instantly lethal. Her hands, steady despite the immense pressure, gripped the heavy ladle. This was no longer a question of right or wrong in the traditional sense. It was a desperate act of self-preservation, a defense of her master and his family against a ruthless enemy. When the oil was at its fiercest, bubbling like a miniature volcano, Morgiana took a deep breath. She grasped the handles of the heavy cauldron, her muscles straining, and with a strength born of pure adrenaline and grim resolve, she carefully carried it out of the kitchen and into the dimly lit courtyard. Her steps were silent, a shadow moving through shadows as she approached the first jar containing a hidden thief. Her heart pounded a frantic drumbeat against her ribs, but her face remained impassive, her resolve unwavering. She poured a generous stream of the boiling oil into the mouth of the first jar. A muffled scream, quickly cut short, emanated from within. She moved to the next jar, and the next, systematically repeating the grim process. The air filled with the faint, sickening scent of burnt oil, and the horrifying, muted sounds of the dying thieves. Each splash, each choked gasp was a chilling confirmation of her success, but also a heavy burden on her soul. She knew that her actions were brutal, but she also knew they were absolutely necessary. This was a war, and she was fighting to protect the innocent. She continued her grim rounds, moving from jar to jar until she had poured the scalding oil into all 37 vessels. 37 silent screams, 37 lives extinguished in a single audacious act of self-defense. By the time she finished, the courtyard was silent once more, save for the faint hiss of the cooling oil and the steady beat of her own racing heart. The danger, she knew, was not entirely over. The captain, the mastermind of this deadly plot, was still out there, unaware of the horrific fate that had befallen his men. Morgiana then returned to the kitchen, carefully cleaned up the cauldron and the remaining oil, and silently went about her usual duties, as if nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. She made sure that no trace of her actions remained, that the morning light would find everything in its proper place. She then lay down to rest, but sleep would not come easily. Her mind replayed the horrifying sounds, the gruesome reality of what she had done, yet she knew, with cold certainty, that there had been no other choice. In the deepest hours of the night, when the moon began its slow descent, the captain stirred from his famed slumber. He waited a little longer, listening, ensuring the house was truly quiet, that no one was awake. Convinced that the household was in a deep sleep, he stood up and began to make his way quietly towards the jars. His plan was simple. He would give the signal, and his men would emerge, daggers in hand, to murder Ali Baba and his family in their sleep. He approached the first jar, his hand reaching out to pour a few drops of oil onto its lid. But as he did, he heard no rustle, no shift, no eager anticipation from within. A chilling silence greeted him. He tried another jar and then another. Still nothing. His heart began to pound with a different kind of dread, a cold, creeping fear. He quickly opened the lid of one of the jars and peered inside. The moonlight, filtering into the dark interior, revealed a horrific sight: a dead man, scalded and lifeless, submerged in oil. A gasp, thick with horror and disbelief, escaped his lips. He moved from jar to jar, confirming his worst fears. Each jar held a dead thief, each having met the same gruesome end. His entire company, his formidable force, had been annihilated not by an army, but by some unseen, unknown force within Ali Baba's household. His carefully laid plan had not only failed spectacularly, but had resulted in the complete destruction of his gang. The captain's mind reeled. Who could have done this? Who possessed such cunning, such ruthlessness, to turn his bone trap so effectively against him? He knew it could only be the same clever mind that had foiled his previous attempts. This was not just a clever person, this was a deadly adversary. He was now alone, surrounded by the corpses of his men, deep within the courtyard of his intended victim. Panic, cold and sharp, began to grip him. He knew he could not stay. To remain would mean certain capture and death. With a quick, silent movement, he gathered his wits, ensuring his face betrayed none of his inner turmoil. He quietly, swiftly, and without a trace, slipped out of Ali Baba's courtyard, abandoning his mules, his jars, and the bodies of his fallen comrades. He moved through the sleeping town, a lone shadow of vengeance, and disappeared into the pre-dawn darkness, his heart burning with a new, even fiercer desire for revenge. His entire gang was gone, and he would not rest until he had exacted retribution for their demise and for the humiliation he had suffered. He vowed that Ali Baba and the mysterious person who protected him would pay dearly for this night. The morning light, usually a gentle balm, broke over Ali Baba's house, revealing a courtyard filled with an unsettling array of oil jars. Ali Baba rose, oblivious to the horrific events that had transpired just hours before. He prepared for his day, his mind still slightly anxious about the merchant in his courtyard, but reassured by his own hospitality. He called for Morgiana, expecting her to help him prepare breakfast and attend to the guest. Morgiana, outwardly composed, approached Ali Baba, her face a serene mask. She looked at him with her keen, intelligent eyes and knew she could no longer keep silent. The danger had been too great, the threat too dire. She led him gently towards the courtyard, her voice soft but firm. "Master," she began, "I must show you something. Something terrible has happened, but I have protected you." Ali Baba, his brow furrowed with mild concern, followed her. As they stepped into the courtyard, he glanced at the jars, expecting to see a busy merchant preparing his goods for departure. But what he saw instead sent a shiver down his spine. The air was heavy, thick, with a strange, unpleasant odor. There was no sign of the merchant. Morgiana walked directly to one of the jars and with a swift, decisive movement, lifted the lid. Ali Baba peered inside and gasped, a cry of horror catching in his throat. His eyes widened in disbelief and terror as he saw the dead body of a man steeped in oil. Morgiana then proceeded to open the lids of the other jars, one by one, revealing the gruesome contents. 37 dead thieves, each drowned in boiling oil. The sight was sickening, a visceral punch to his stomach. His legs almost gave way. "Morgiana!" he exclaimed, his voice a strained whisper. What is this? What has happened?" With calm precision, Morgiana recounted the entire night's events. She explained how she had heard the rustling, how her intuition had warned her, how she had discovered the hidden men, and how she had acted decisively to eliminate the threat, using the very oil the captain had brought as his cover. She explained the captain's plan, his cunning, and his ultimate escape. She laid bare the full, terrifying truth of the ongoing plot against him, the relentless pursuit by the thieves, and her own desperate measures to protect him. Ali Baba listened, his face a mixture of shock, terror, and profound gratitude. He realized the incredible danger he had been in and the unparalleled courage and resourcefulness of his slave. Morgiana had not only saved his life, but had wiped out almost the entire band of 40 thieves, leaving only their ruthless captain to escape. He looked at her, his heart swelling with an emotion far beyond mere appreciation. He saw not a slave, but a protector, a savior, a woman of extraordinary spirit and loyalty. "Morgiana," Ali Baba said, his voice thick with emotion. "You have saved my life and the lives of my family. You are no longer a slave. From this day forward, you are a free woman, and more than that, you are part of my family. I will cherish and protect you always." He embraced her, a gesture of profound respect and gratitude that transcended their former stations. Despite his newfound freedom and wealth, Ali Baba knew that the threat was not entirely over. The captain, Cunning and Vengeful, remained at large. He understood that the captain would not rest until he had exacted his revenge. The bodies of the thieves were discreetly disposed of, buried in a hidden part of his garden, leaving no trace of the night's horrors. The mules and jars were sold, carefully, to avoid drawing any attention. Ali Baba resumed his quiet life, but now with a heightened sense of vigilance, relying heavily on Morgiana's sharp intellect and unwavering watchfulness. Indeed, the captain, driven by a burning desire for retribution and the loss of his entire gang, spent weeks, then months, plotting his final, most audacious strike. He moved to a distant city, regrouped, and slowly began to rebuild his resources. He adopted a new disguise, that of a wealthy merchant, dealing in silks and fine textiles. He established himself in the town, slowly gaining trust and making connections, all the while keeping a keen ear out for any news of Ali Baba. He learned of Ali Baba's prosperous existence, now living in Cassim's grand house, having quietly inherited his brother's business and wealth. He also learned of the invaluable presence of Morgiana, now a trusted and respected member of Ali Baba's household. The captain, knowing he could not make another direct attempt on Ali Baba's life, devised a plan to get close to him, to infiltrate his social circle, and to strike when Ali Baba would least expect it. He carefully cultivated his new persona, building a reputation as a generous and respected merchant. After some time, he arranged for an invitation to dine with Ali Baba, hoping to gain entrance to his home under the guise of friendship. Ali Baba, unaware of the true identity of his new acquaintance, was honored by the invitation from such a seemingly reputable merchant. He accepted, eager to expand his own social and business connections. The night of the dinner arrived. Ali Baba, his wife, and their now freed Morgiana gathered in the grand dining hall of Cassim's former house, now Ali Baba's. The captain, resplendent in fine silks, sat at Ali Baba's table, his face a picture of amicable conviviality, his eyes, however, constantly assessing, observing, and plotting. He complimented Ali Baba's hospitality, his success, and even made polite inquiries about his family. During the meal, the captain, still playing the role of the esteemed merchant, expressed a desire to taste a certain rare delicacy that he remembered from his travels. He asked if Ali Baba's household could prepare it. Ali Baba, eager to please his guest, agreed, but his cook admitted they were out of a particular spice required for the dish. Morgiana, ever resourceful and remembering the captain's prior visits, immediately offered to procure it from the marketplace. As Morgiana prepared to leave, her sharp eyes, ever vigilant, fell upon the captain. Something about his manner, a subtle gesture, a familiar glint in his eye, sparked a flicker of recognition within her. She observed him closely, noticing a small detail, a scar, almost hidden, on his hand that she remembered from her previous encounters with the thieves. Her heart gave a jolt. This was no ordinary merchant. This was the captain. The master of deception had returned, and he was here, inside their home, ready to strike. Her mind raced, the full implications of his presence hitting her with terrifying force. He had infiltrated their sanctuary, disguised as a friend, and was clearly waiting for an opportune moment to exact his revenge. She knew she had to act, and she had to do so immediately before he could unleash his deadly intent. Morgiana, with a calm composure that belied the turmoil in her heart, quickly formulated a plan. She would engage him in a way that would reveal his true nature, expose him, and eliminate the threat once and for all. She decided to perform a dance, a traditional entertainment often offered to guests of honor. She knew Ali Baba would agree, and it would provide her with the perfect opportunity. She retrieved her zither and several sharp daggers used for juggling in her performances. Returning to the dining hall, she bowed gracefully to Ali Baba and the captain. "Master," she announced, her voice clear and steady, "I should like to entertain our esteemed guest with a special dance." Ali Baba, proud of Morgiana's talents and delighted by her initiative, readily agreed. The captain, always keen on entertainment, nodded, a faint, predatory smile playing on his lips, unaware of the trap being set for him. Morgiana began to dance, her movements fluid and captivating. The soft strumming of her zither filled the air, accompanying her graceful turns and spins. As the dance progressed, she began to incorporate her daggers, weaving them skillfully into her performance. She juggled them, spun them, and made them flash dangerously in the lamplight, her eyes never leaving the captain. The music grew faster, more intense, and her movements became more energetic, more daring. The captain watched, enthralled, his guard slowly dropping as he became captivated by her performance. He laughed, clapped, and relaxed into the moment. As Morgiana reached the climax of her dance, she executed a particularly intricate move, a dizzying spin that brought her directly in front of the captain. With a swift, almost imperceptible flick of her wrist, one of the daggers left her hand. It flew through the air, glinting in the soft light, and plunged directly into the captain's heart. The music stopped abruptly. The captain gasped, his eyes wide with shock and disbelief, a final, guttural sound escaping his lips as he slumped forward, lifeless, onto the table. Silence descended upon the room, thick and heavy. Ali Baba, his wife, and the other guests stared in stunned horror, their faces pale. "Morgiana!" Ali Baba cried, his voice trembling with shock and confusion. "What have you done?" Morgiana stood before them still, her breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. "Master," she said, her voice strained but clear, "I have saved your life once more. This man, this was the captain of the 40 Thieves." She then explained how she had recognized him, how she knew he was there to kill Ali Baba, and how her dance was the only way to strike him down before he could carry out his vengeance. Ali Baba looked from the dead captain to Morgiana, his heart swelling with a mixture of terror at the close call and an overwhelming sense of gratitude. He finally understood the depth of her loyalty, her intelligence, and her courage. This woman, who had once been his slave, had now saved his life for the third and final time, extinguishing the last remaining threat from the dangerous band of thieves. Ali Baba, true to his word, officially declared Morgiana a free woman. But he did more than that. In a gesture of profound love and respect, he arranged for his son to marry her, elevating her to a place of honor and security within his family. Morgiana, the clever and courageous former slave, became a beloved daughter-in-law, a pillar of wisdom and strength in Ali Baba's household. With the captain of the thieves finally gone, Ali Baba and his family were free from fear. They never again visited the cave, satisfied with the wealth they possessed, which was more than enough for several generations. Ali Baba lived out his days in peace and prosperity, always remembering the incredible debt he owed to Morgiana, the wise and brave woman who had turned the tide of fortune in his favor. The secret of the cave remained safe, known only to Ali Baba and Morgiana, passed down through whispers to their children, a timeless tale of greed, cunning, and the extraordinary power of loyalty. And so, my dear listener, the story of Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves comes to its peaceful close. The whispers of adventure fade, the glint of gold settles into shadow, and the brave acts of a courageous heart find their well-deserved rest. As the final echoes of this tale drift into the night, may your own world feel calm and secure, wrapped in the gentle embrace of quiet sleep. Let the lingering images of cunning plans and loyal hearts softly guide you towards a night of deep, undisturbed slumber. The mysteries of the desert, the sparkle of hidden treasures, and the unwavering courage of Morgiana have now found their place in your dreams. Rest well, my friend, knowing that good triumphs, and even in the grandest adventures, true peace